Redevelopment Board for Tuesday, August the 12th, 2014 to order. Before we have our roll call, anyone who wishes to speak to any item on the agenda, please fill out one of the green speaker sheets located here at the front and get it over to our secretary. At this time, we'll have our roll call.
Ms. Hurd? Here. Dr. Jameson? Here. Ms. Ford?
Here.
Mr. Barhu?
Present.
Mr. Pupla?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Present.
Mr. Miller? Mr. Swartz?
Here.
Chairman Cooley?
Here. All right. At this time, we'll have our invocation, and then we will have our Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Hurd. Most gracious God, we come into your presence this evening to deliberate over the conditions of this city. We ask you to give us wisdom and knowledge as we attempt to lead the city in the direction that will bring a change for the better. We ask you to be with everything that we do and keep us mindful of your presence. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board, you've had a chance to look over the minutes for July 8th. Are there any corrections to the minutes? And if not, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as printed.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we accept the minutes as printed for July 8th, 2014. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion carries. All right. Now we come down to our staff report. The police department is not present with us today, but you did have a chance to look over the ComStat report. Is there anything that we weren't able to discuss last month that you'd like to bring out this month that we would need to get Captain Blanchett here for?
I just have a question, Mr. Chairman. Did we set a meeting with Captain Blanchett, or was the meeting set, or was it scheduled? Because one of the things he's talked about is going ahead and set in a community meeting so we can address some of our concerns.
Okay.
That's a follow-up question. Yeah.
Have we had anyone, or have you contacted anyone to be a part of that yet, Dr. Jameson?
I wrote a letter.
Use your mic, please, because we need to.
I wrote a letter, and I sent it to Charles, Mr. Bryant, for it to be distributed to everyone, pretty much outlining what projects are started in Midtown. And then I wrote several needs that we had identified in Midtown, and also included what we perceived as a solution to those needs. Okay. And I wanted everyone to review the letter and comment before we went out. I anticipated being sent out in some way, even if it's just put on the website, and start that as the beginning of developing meetings with outside people. Now, I could read that letter now if you want me to.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
I'll read real fast. Okay. I outlined the goal of the Midtown Area Board and identified 3 projects that are ongoing right now. The Orange Avenue Reconstruction Project. This project would overhaul Orange Avenue, both above and below the road surface. The Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard repavement, It's another project ongoing, currently going. And the Salvation Army teams that have been assigned to collect debris on Martin Luther King Boulevard. So those are three things that are occurring right now. In addition, the Midtown Redevelopment Board has identified several immediate concerns in our neighborhood that must be addressed. One, the need for recreational programs in the summer and ongoing programs during the year. The board is asking for the creation of a park and recreation board. This board would recommend youth, adult, and senior-oriented programs to be developed in our neighborhood. We have a need for youth organizations in the community. We have also identified the lack of activities such as Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts in our area. There should be several programs to provide educational and cultural services for our children. The third need is the reduction of the deterioration of property in the neighborhood. We are planning a massive neighborhood cleanup. We're asking volunteers from businesses, organizations, churches, and individuals to help us in any way possible. After this event, we would like to adopt a street program. But businesses, churches, and organizations can be assigned to specific streets in the community to provide minor maintenance duties. We also identify the need for senior assistance. We are concerned about individuals in the community who, due to age or disability, are unable to maintain their yards and property. We would like to develop and adopt a senior program. Need for volunteers in our community. Many of the social organizations, churches, and other nonprofit agencies are required to provide community services in their community. We would like to establish a way that need can be identified and passed on to these organizations so that charity can start at home. And then the last need is the need for community coalitions. We want to develop a coalition of the many organizations in this community that will collectively pursue funding, such as grants, and form a permanent structure in the community to achieve our goals. And I ended with, if you're interested, please meet with us as our regularly scheduled date, the second Tuesday, and so on and so forth. So I wanted everybody to look at this and see what I left out, what need to be added to it. And this would be presented as sort of like our goals for the Midtown Board, that we see these needs, this is what we want to do to develop the Midtown area. And you didn't get a copy, but and I don't know why, but if we could develop this into like a platform for what we need to do, and it really identifies everything we talked about in the meeting that we need to do and what we can do to achieve these, to address these problems. And the other thing that I was supposed to do is look up youth organizations in the community, and I found the ranked nonprofit national risk program for 2011, and there are many examples of programs that can be copied and done in this community. But as I read all of these programs and the various things they do, I realized that it's not the biggest problem. It's not the youth not being organized, it's the adults not being organized in our community. And I start noticing the lack of a lot of things that I remember from my youth in Daytona Beach that's not here anymore. So maybe our first problem needs to be addressing the adult lack of activity in our community, and from there we can go to developing activities for our youth in our community.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I just had a follow-up question, well, comments to that. As far as the ComStat report, I've noticed, again, our police department do a tremendous job. They do a wonderful job, and they have to be applauded for all the great work they're doing. I have also looked over the stats, and the domestic violence cases have gone up 100. I'm looking at the stats, and that's really disturbing as far as the amount of domestic violence. I don't know if we're addressing it. I know there's a domestic violence coalition in our community. How much of that they're doing, especially within the area, that's something I think we may just want to get some more information in or look at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one of the things that Captain Blanchett did mention is that when it comes to domestic violence, it's kind of hard for the police department to prevent that from happening.
Yes, sir.
Because basically you would have to be in the house 24/7. Okay, and that just can't happen. One of the things that I also know is that a lot of domestic violence goes unreported. But one of the things that I think will make a difference is by meeting with like the neighborhood watch groups, and some of us going out and being in some of the neighborhood watch meetings may help to let people know we're concerned about it and to bring that to the forefront. When we were growing up, there were certain things you didn't see because people knew that if they did certain things, everybody in the community was going to tell them. Today, everybody's afraid of the jits. But one thing that I also know is if the community pulls together, there can be a change. And if they could do it in some place like Jamaica, New York, we can do it in Daytona Beach. So I will get a hold of Captain Blanchard, let him know that we still have a concern about that, and see if there's anything that we can do on our end with that. Any other? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, to elaborate on what Dr. Jamison has stated earlier, I did talk to a couple of lawn service owners, and they are in agreement with adopting an elderly to take care and maintain their lawn.
Okay.
And I spoke with 3, and they're on board with it.
Okay.
And one of them already stated that that's what he do already. So once we get the ball rolling, I would like to take that piece of the pie and make sure it happens.
Good. Thank you. That will be a big help because that will also help code enforcement, which will make a big difference. Now, we're not, Mr. Gross, we're not actually going and making Midtown Board liable for this. We're simply facilitating, trying to get people to go and help out the seniors. Will that be a conflict or anything in regard to the law?
Well, not based on what I understand to be what you're going to be doing now.
Okay. All right. We just want to make sure that we're in the confines of the state. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I need to know what I need to do next with this.
Okay.
Should I finalize it and put it in some format, and then what do
Okay.
we do from there?
Is there any further input in that particular letter from anyone on the board? And now, can we send that out?
If I can, Mr. Chair, maybe it would be better if I took a look at the draft.
Okay.
I was listening, and you asked me that question, but I'd rather
Actually see it?
if that's
Okay. Well, that makes
I
sense.
gave you the best advice that I could, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Berger.
Yeah, we can send it out. We'll distribute that so it comes out through your email, and so each of you individually can then respond back to Charles as well.
Okay.
So we can get that accelerated
Okay.
for review of the draft, and that will help Dr. Jamison.
Okay.
I thought one thing can be done if make it prettier, and at least post it all around in churches and in neighborhood centers, so they'll know what we are doing and what we are trying to do with the phone number to call and stuff. So that would encourage people to at least come to our meetings, and if they hear Adopt a Street program, that they would get involved in it also. So
That sounds good. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, in that line, I did meet with Dr. Alma Dixon from VCU, who, and also they do have a new person who's going to be in charge of their mental health program at VCU, and they are on board with this. I did talk to them about the Adopt a Grandparent program that I'm trying to put together and solicit students from the school to go out and work with the grandparents, and they're on board with it, and I'm working on looking up information, trying to put together something to bring back to the board. And I apologize for the letter not being distributed, but we will get that out, but I need to run it past your attorney before we can do that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Chair.
Yes.
To my understanding, before we start distributing the letter, I thought we were going to have a committee of key players come together to discuss how we were going to organize this, all the efforts that we're talking about, and having like key players like leisure services and the different departments to come in and sit at the table with us and have a plan prior to dispensing that information out to the public.
Well, that was my next thing,
Okay.
is that we do need to get a conglomerate of people. Yes, we would like to get leisure services on board. We already know we have the police department working with us. One of the main things we need to resolve today is who from this board would like to help with that, because we can't leave it all on Dr. Jameson. So we need some members of this board. I do know you had mentioned that you would definitely be interested. Okay, and the co-chair will be working. Reverend Fuqua, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to call you the old running back, but and I definitely want to be on board with that. Anyone else? Okay, well, let's do this. Can we coordinate something where we can bring all the players to the table and possibly get this done where we can have a meeting with the police, the leisure department, this board, and even the school, someone from the schools, to try to put something together to try to help our youth in this area?
If I could just make a suggestion and have one person from this board before we get to meeting with the whole board to do exactly what I just heard, which is get a committee, but if we have two people.
Yeah.
Well, that's correct, but if this board delegates responsibility to one person, they still need to act in the sunshine as well.
Delegates.
If this board delegates responsibility even to an individual member, that person would have to do its work in their work in the sunshine as well. It doesn't matter whether they delegate to two people or one. If you're going to formally delegate some function to this board, then
it's got to be publicly.
Yeah, publicly noticed
And see, that's the main what we're trying to do is make it publicly known that we want to have this meeting and formulate some kind of a game plan. Does that make sense?
Well, then we're calling it a workshop.
There we go. That's what I needed to hear.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Okay. We know that as far as for the summer, there's no way we can do a workshop and get this done in time for the summer because school is already starting. But I'm sure leisure services would love to have some help in trying to formulate some type of an after-school program that might make a difference. How quickly can we put together a workshop in regard to that? Now, normally we leave all the workshops on Mr. Bryant. This is a lot that we're asking him to do. He's going to need some help. So we've got to step up to the plate and help him. He didn't ask me to say that. I'm saying it because it's just common sense. Okay. So, yes, ma'am.
What I want to participate in that process, but I need a lot of assistance in identifying the people who need to be at that meeting. And I see a huge possibility of governmental agencies, state, like juvenile justice and all that, who need to be there too and say, what can we all do, the minister of the alliance and everything. But I don't know all those actors, and I don't know names of some things, and so I will need some help in trying to identify who to invite to this workshop.
Okay.
Chairman Tooley?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My thought was maybe we could continue this discussion, give some more thought to it, but right now, could we bring this up during our board comments and revisit this? Because I know there's a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts on how to kind of move forward. Would
That's
that
a
be
good idea.
Possible?
That's a good idea. So that will give us some time to write down some notes and things during the meeting, and we can deal with this during the board discussion. Excuse me. Now, we do have a summary report from code enforcement, and there are 184 open cases. No one is here from code enforcement to really give us any input on what these are. Most of it is the same thing that's been there all along. The sign violations, the trash pickup, abandoned buildings and so forth and on like that. So is there anything that you find on here that needs to be addressed? If so, we can ask code enforcement to be at the next meeting to address it. But basically, this is just a summary of what is open. Yes, ma'am.
Chairman, will you ask them to be here so we can ask them questions directly?
Sure. We can ask them to be here. Because the summary does show us the open cases.
The summary shows open cases, but I know we had some addresses before. But I would like for them to be here so we can ask direct questions, especially about some individual properties on main streets.
Okay. All right. We'll ask code enforcement to be present at the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question I would like for them to explain to me a little bit about how do you know what's valid and not valid? Do you learn about what you're doing wrong when you get a violation? But how do you know? I mean, what do they send out to businesses and property owners so they'll know you can't do this, you can't do this? Or is it that they don't know until somebody tell them they did something wrong? So I would like them to explain that process to me.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Now, anything else on code enforcement per se? All right, moving right along, we'll go to item 7, DEV 214-084, conditional use, BCU, Residence Hall, Phase 1. Mr. Bryant?
Mr. Chairman and board members, this is item number 7, DEV 2014-084, conditional use, BCU, Resident Hall, Phase 1. The project is BCU Hall, Phase 1, construction of 2 4-story resident halls for a total of 42,000 square foot with 658 beds. The location is close to the northwest corner of the intersection of McLeod Avenue and Walnut Street. The requested board actions is to review proposed site plan and conditional use and review the application pursuant to appearance standards for the redevelopment area. Site plan review. The project is located in RA residential zoning district. Future land use is level 2 residential. The dormitory use is compatible with surrounding campus and residential uses. Proposed project is consistent with designated future land use for the site. Required parking for the BCU campus is 1,665 parking spaces based on the current student population. Sufficient parking is provided for Phase 1. The project is located adjacent to single-family resident uses on the east side of the project site. The project is required to meet the compatibility requirements in Article 18, Section 1. The project must provide a 5-foot landscape buffer and a fence, which is provided. At a 25-foot setback, the buildings may be a maximum height of 35 feet. The applicant is proposing a building with a height of 44 feet. The applicant may request a modification of the height requirements by showing innovative landscape techniques that meet the intent of the compatibility requirements. Design guidelines for redevelopment district. Project review for conformance to appearance standards. The project is proposing 2 new structures with architectural design features similar to other buildings on the BCU campus and meets the redevelopment design standards. The staff recommendations is to approve the site plan and conditional use subject to 1, resolution of the outstanding technical review comments and requirements, 2, building design and compliance with LDC compatibility standards, 3, submittal of a pedestrian safety plan, and 4, modifications to the location of the fire hydrant to service the proposed building. The applicant is here tonight to answer any questions that you may have regarding the site plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. One thing, board members, what is being recommended by staff is a conditional approval. Okay. Yes, sir.
Here for all the questions, but I'll do an intro as well, if I can.
All right.
First and foremost, I appreciate your comments as far as the domestic battery is concerned. I used to be a prosecutor.
First, Mr. Wagner, you need to give us...
Josh Wagner, 1020 West International Speedway Boulevard, Daytona Beach, Florida.
Is that your business or home address?
That is my business.
Oh, okay. Thank
my
you.
home address is 109 DeMont Avenue, Port Orange. Technically, it's Volusia County. I don't live in a city. I'm cityless, as they say. I guess as far as the domestic battery, one thing you're going to want to consider when I was a prosecutor, where it came up the most was with drinking. So your holidays, anything that is a holiday where the family are getting together, where they're not used to being together as much, the greater family, it goes up a lot. So as you're considering these types of meetings, there's definitely a drinking aspect to it. So when you're getting with groups and you're talking to them, that's a tweak to how you can try to go about it that might help. I found that our jail, as obviously as you know that we oversee it, it goes up quite a bit during the holidays because of alcohol, and domestic battery is definitely a big one. But we can go there, and when you have the workshop, I'll actually come if you want someone's perspective from that as well. As far as Site A, what I'm going to do for Phase 1, I have a packet as well, another one that's a little bigger. I thought it'd be easier for you to see. Would you like me to go ahead and pass that out to you guys so we can all kind of have these maps? It might be a little easier for you.
That'll be fine.
We can have Steve, we'll walk around.
Thank you.
And as far as the... I always find it easier when we're looking at a big map. The first one
Thank you, sir.
is that one that we're discussing. So we're looking at it, and it's, if you go to the last page, it's the one, at Walnut, that one there.
Okay.
I think from when we met the last time in discussions with this one, the only thing that really has changed has been the setback on the, I guess that would be the east side, to get from the 35 to get to the 44. Some of the enhancements we made, and I'll point them out on this one. It's a slide in there. It would be So you notice here would be your fourth page. You'll see some yellow and some green as far as the trees. Basically what it is, they're a lot older trees are brought in. There's obviously a significant expense to that. But the idea behind it and the meetings we had with the residents, to fill you in, we had another resident, another neighborhood meeting. And what I did this time, I did a phase 1 and phase 2 meeting at the same time with the university. So I sent letters to everyone that's around the parcel. So people were like, hang on, where's this project? And it was like, on the way on the other side of campus. So we still had a lot of people come. And one of the overwhelming things is, obviously parking is always one of the major ones, if not the, was the discussion of the courtyard method and what we've been able to accomplish. And I think Member Schwartz, you'll appreciate it as our discussions, when you look at that east side, and that is, we would consider the most concerning part of it, because that's your neighborhood line for the most part on this phase, is that it allows us, one, to make sure the students, for lack of a better word, are hanging out in the courtyard. By doing that 25-foot setback, if we did the 75 and talking to the neighborhood, they agreed that if we push it too far, then people are going to be hanging out there. So it was kind of, we have the windows that don't open, so there's no sound. It's not like they can open the windows and listen to music. It's blocked off. But the idea is, and it's continued to be, is to create a space that's inside this area for the students to continuously congregate. That's been the idea behind that. And if you look at phase 1 and phase 2, that's really been the whole design theme to do it. And as we work on our master plan, that's what we're trying to create, is these hubs. Obviously, the student union, when we get to that phase eventually, the student union will have a significant aspect of that. But there's definitely, as far as the city code, we think, and staff appears to agree that we're providing an ample amount of that vegetation as far as creating that block, that wall, but not just a wall. You don't want to build a wall. That would be ugly. So the vegetation to create that barrier, we think has been successful. Everything else, as far as the comments, we've made sure to have the loading area. I know a couple members had mentioned that. At the last one, you'll see that noticed at the top on the first sheet. Also, the neighborhood, again, emphasized they wanted the garbage to be cooled, and that would be in that loading zone as well, it's away from the residential. We didn't want to put it on the side where the residential housing is, so we've made sure that's cooled. And then the disability parking, that was brought up as well, especially at our neighborhood meetings. They had some concerns, and I know that was some concerns in here. I believe that was it as far as the design standards. I know that was mentioned. Member Schwartz, you liked the flatness of it. I believe we discussed at the last meeting.
Yes.
As far as the roof. We kept that in it. There was some discussions at the neighborhood that they actually liked the peak to it, but then I explained the idea behind it, so they did come around. But I think that was, for the most part, that was most of the comments I remember that we made some changes to since the last meeting to address some of your concerns. This phase doesn't have we don't hit our parking threshold, although we kind of consider phase 1 and phase 2 the same phase, or at least I do from a financing standpoint, because they're attached. For me, I have to work on both, but from a phase 1, as far as site plan is concerned, it doesn't hit a parking threshold. Although, as far as our master planning is concerned, and having Sans Lassiter here and him on board, part of his job is that pedestrian movement, which I've discussed a couple times with everybody in here, is to make sure, this is the freshman dorm, so the parking is a little different for them. They shouldn't technically have cars, and we're trying to make sure that's enforced. But also that pedestrian movement as we get around the neighborhood houses is definitely part of our master plan, and will continue to be until that's finalized. Then obviously, if you have any questions, I can get into the specifics in any particular area that you'd like.
Did I hear you say that?
Excuse me, Mr. Miller. Okay. We start with our professional.
All right.
In case he has any.
What I see, I really like what I see. I really like to see a lot of green space, and you're doing that. And then I would see landscape buffer between the existing residents. I really like that. So I think it'll enhance that area instead of just asphalt. and concrete everywhere.
The old way of doing things. Yeah.
Yes.
Any other issues?
I don't have any other issues. It's just the whole parking thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an endless discussion.
Endless, and I'll get it to. I'll get deep into it in phase 2. Unless you want me to get into it now, I'm comfortable with doing it now as well, because I can tell you, it's not just you. It is the community. It is administration. We feel it as well. We're, as far as commitment is concerned, a lot of money is being spent not only to build it, to design it properly. I mean, that's where Sands comes in and his team. That's where the developers that are working on the master plan with us. And I can tell you there's a couple, and I'll get into some, depending on how far you want me to go, on the properties that are being acquired that are close to campus, and also park and rides is another thing that's being discussed that's very popular at campuses all across the United States, of alleviating some of it even more, because the good thing about park and rides is they leave the car there they come in on a Sunday night, they leave the car there all week. As long as you have a walkable campus, i.e. we need a grocery store in the area, so they can walk to and they would never have to leave. So that's the idea behind, if we have enough kids to generate that need to help do it, and there's a couple identified properties, we can strategically get less traffic. So it's not just creating enough parking, it's designing, a mini area where people don't need to drive. That's the idea behind it. So it's not just the parking, it's spending the money to design it properly, like the open space, like you're talking about. If we can design it where we promote it and we want it and we want people to hang out in this area, they will walk. So that's the idea behind the master plan, and that's why we're putting a lot of resources, i.e. money, behind doing it properly.
Okay. All right, Mr. Miller.
You said that a store. Where's the store?
There is no store.
Okay.
It's the chicken and the egg. It's just like commercial. You don't build. I hate urban sprawl, but I hate to use it as an example. With urban sprawl, it's not that you build a new grocery store out in the woods. The sprawl goes out, and then the grocery store follows the houses. When a lot of these grocery stores, they're counting rooftops. It's not the other way around. So it's, as this gets developed and more kids are coming on campus and living on campus, one, you have less kids driving in and out of campus. Cars become stationary. But part of that, their wallets become stationary too. So consider a student just like the neighborhood. It's like a roof. So, and from a development standpoint, reurbanization and getting a community, getting people to move back into town rather than out, that's when your commercial development really starts redeveloping, because they're following the rooftops. That's the whole key of density models is looking at that.
Mr. Wagner, let me reiterate. What you're saying is that you want to build it and then find a parking space later.
Oh, no, I was talking about a grocery store.
Well, we know there's no grocery store.
Well, phase
but
one.
We was talking about the parking, and that's one of the major concerns. I think I heard our staff say that you're not meeting the parking requirements for even the first phase.
No. Phase one, we've met the parking requirements.
You met the parking. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So phase one, and I'll go into the specifics of phase two and our ideas behind it and some of the areas of. I mean, there were some solutions that were. There were solutions that were Band-Aids, in my opinion, that were simply, let's change the name of a parking spot. It's still not enough parking even if you change the name. People are parking there anyways, even though it's not student parking. So we could have gone along the lines of trying to work with the city to, can we lease these spots on the road to get through compliance? But that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is create more parking. And in reality, what I've been in my discussions with the neighborhood, it's not just about meeting the code. It's about meeting the demand and the need. So it's, on paper you may have it. We have it here. Right now we have it. But I can ask you this question. Right now, Bethune-Cookman has enough parking. I could ask every single one of you, and I think I know the answer because I know the answer myself. I don't think there's enough parking when I'm out there trying to get a parking spot. It's a problem at every college campus. Every university has that problem. Daytona State College, when you're out there and you see kids parking on the grass, it is a problem for everybody. So the idea behind it is to design a better system. And that's what we're doing, is designing a better system. Phase one, it's not even an issue. Phase two, it is, and that's where we get into the design elements and our opportunities of where we can end up with more parking than we even need. From a code standpoint, not from a theoretical. Did,
Yes, ma'am.
Something you briefly mentioned, I think is a better solution than parking on campus, because as Bethune-Cookman grows, pretty soon there will be no parking on campus. So if you were to find a facility where kids can park off campus, because I think most of the time what kids bring their cars on campus is for weekends when they want to go back home, because they don't really drive around campus. So if it's a park and ride place, I think that would be better pursued. You park off like most campuses do. In Wisconsin, nobody parked on campus, and you had to go to this facility and catch your bus into campus and stuff like that. Now, BCC is not that big yet, but eventually it will be. So I wouldn't concentrate on parking more on campus, but finding a place to park off campus and bringing kids in on a regular basis.
And I'll point out, I agree with you absolutely. In UF, that's a lot of people. I always lived by campus at UF, but a lot of my friends would do park and ride. If you go to the last page in the little packet that I handed out, you'll see the ones in green in the middle. If you look at it, those are Bethune-Cookman owned lands as far as how many spots we fit in. You'll see 3 lots that are the Daytona Beach Housing Authority. I went in front of their board last month in discussion on, if you look at the 2 top ones, there's one that says 306 and there's one that says 293. As you all are probably familiar with, those lots aren't developed. They have utilities on them, but they're not developed. So my idea was, because I work literally 2 blocks away, so I drive that area every day. I knew those lots were open, so I contacted their director, went before their board in discussions of doing a lease for a transition period. We wanted to do a longer-term lease, but the way they're set up for their funding and how it works is they never know when they're going to get funding, so they don't want to tie it up too long. But their board, there's no, we don't have a formal agreement yet, but their board was in agreement that maybe not the 306 one, because that's going to be, if anything gets developed, that would be the one that gets developed first. So it wouldn't make financial sense from our standpoint as far as developing it into a lot. But the one that's 293, that's a lot of parking. And it's really not that far, but that fits the park and ride model, especially from a skateboard, bicycle, walking model. It's very close considering they are college kids. They should be able to walk that far, and it should be okay. But that would be a great location for it. Their board seemed very receptive to it. But while I was in that meeting, it was kind of strange. God works in mysterious ways, I guess. And they happen to be talking about another property that they are moving people out of as we speak to move into a newer location. It's a beautiful location. A lot of work has been done. It's on this little map, so I guess I can point it out. But my only concern about bringing it forward is, putting it on this map. I was like, well, do I put it on the map and do I talk about it, because I don't want someone else to buy it? They have to go through a 6-month process. It's a process to acquire property from the Daytona Beach Housing Authority. You work through Chicago. There's a process to it, and that process has put us in the position of it's perfect. I mean, that park and ride's great. Honestly, I think we're going to continue that discussion anyways, because that gives us roughly 300 spots. That would give us 150 spots over what we on paper even need. That would be extra. But that lower spot for the Daytona Beach Housing Authority, that's ideal. It's not on the city tax roll right now. Those units need to go down. There's a reason they're being moved out. From a development standpoint, and as far as a neighborhood standpoint, and as far as the university and the city's vision, your own plan, that is an ideal location. In the phase 2 discussions, when we get into it, that's where we'd like to go. Like I said, we want to do more, because the university is growing, and as we knock down an old dorm and build a new dorm, a lot of times we're going to have to build a new dorm before the old dorm's knocked down. So we want to put ourselves in a position to where we're not doing the chicken and the egg. You don't have a problem until the door's open, but you have a problem with the numbers. So we want to get in a position where we don't have it. And it just makes it a lot easier for your group, and we're not talking about any conditional. It would just be an easier process. But we have to start the process. There has to be a beginning. And this is our beginning stage. But those are Those are two very viable solutions. There's actually another park and ride solution just a couple blocks away that's not on this map. But the park and ride solution, if this board, is something you wanted to tell us to do as one of the conditions, if they're already parking lots, we don't have to go through a site plan provision. You just tell us to you say, hey, get 200 spots to a park and ride, and we just do it. That's a way to give you a solution. If that's something you wanted concrete, that you say, guys, go do it. And I can tell you, we're willing to pay the amount that it makes sense for a business to do it. I've already spoken to a couple, and I can tell you they were all happy. And if you own a church that's in the area and you have a big parking lot Monday through Friday, well, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if anyone's out there listening, because if you look at it, you only need the spots Monday through Friday if they're parking rides. So there's some very neat things that other universities are doing along those lines. But like I said, that's not really a phase 1. That's a phase 2 technical issue. But as we know, it's an issue.
Okay.
The pedestrian safety plan, that's a new one on me. What does that do?
What it does is, Sans could talk more to it, is what we're trying to do, it's not just the movement of cars. It's the movement of people. What we're trying to do is create a campus that, as you look at it, like anything, if you're designing something and it's brand new and it's, you want to design the ideal development, it's easy to do when you're designing it from scratch. But when you're building it over time, it starts getting piecemealed. So as we do the master plan and we really start discussing exactly where we want to build and what we want to do, well, having kids here affects, here, well, where do they go to class? How are they going to get to the Performing Arts Center? They only got, a specific amount of time between class. So those types of analysis take place of how do they get there. Some universities are so big you can't get from one class to another without a bicycle. This campus is luckily small enough that they can walk and get to class on time. And part of that, is the pedestrian safety plan, because we need to make sure they're not going across big roads, and we have to take that into consideration. So that's what it involves.
Will there be any changes to when classes start? Will it be 20 minutes between classes?
If it
strategically would help.
Dr. Jameson, that's the college's responsibility. Before Mr. Jeffries gets too far, I would like to ask you, Mr. Jeffries, in regard to the building height.
Yes.
We see here that the project is higher than what the zoning is. What is staff's position on that?
Well, I believe our position is, for the record, I'm Jason Jeffries with the Redevelopment Office. Our position is this is a requirement of Article 18, Section 1 of the Land Development Code, which is, the zoning district itself, which is RA zoning, does not have a height limit. This is being triggered by the compatibility standards in Article 18, Section 1. That section does allow for modifications to those standards. Essentially, the compatibility is about how you're buffering the non-residential use to the single-family residential uses, which in this case are to the east. And the code does allow for, if they provide innovative landscape methods to assist with that buffering, the board can authorize the modification of that requirement. And so I think based on, believe they have submitted to you a revised landscape plan that provides some additional buffering and probably is a lot more effective than sticking with the technical requirement of the maximum 35 height. And you'll get the intent of that section, which is the buffering between the non-residential and the residential uses to adjacent. So as long as the board is comfortable with that, staff doesn't have any issues with providing for that modification request.
Okay. Yes, sir,
And
Mr. Booker.
you just had that recent example with Toyota, and where we did exactly that and had the larger trees, and that satisfied that requirement.
Okay. Ms. Ford.
I just wanted to ask, is it only one, I have two questions, one loading station, and how far is that from the nearest entry, exit way in the stairwell, for parents to load all that stuff and try to get it in the building?
It is only one loading station. To answer your question, on phase one, no, I apologize. There's actually two. They're just, if you're looking at it, the parking, it's really a parking loading area. The other one's here. You see the little arrow there? They're close because you don't want them to come in, have to go through the building and through. So they're right near each other. You'll see on phase two, each building has one, but they're farther apart. It's just how the design is set up. Here it made sense to where we could put them both. And also we needed an area where the discussion earlier was how do we get the garbage truck to make this turn. That's also where the garbage truck will be able to go. Because it's a bigger area so they can back in and get around.
All right, Ms. Hurd.
Excuse me, it was mentioned about pedestrian and safety. I know this will be discussed later somewhere else, but that is very important that the students know that you are providing safety for them if they follow the directions.
And that's always hard with
Okay,
students. But it's our responsibility.
To be emphasized because we have problems passing by the college now, and the students are not following directions in where they should be walking.
And you're right. And I think part of Sam's job is going to be designing it in a way that is, it's not just here's the way you do it. It's going to be set up in a way that you understand that that's the way you do it. You know what I mean? Sidewalks will match up. Lanes will match up. It will have a different feel to it because I think if you have a big campus and kids are walking around, and if you've walked campus, sidewalks are, some don't connect exactly right, some don't have the buffer. I mean, it's in and out. If we have it set up in a way where everything has that similar feel, the similar look, similar design, I think it will have a natural flow. And I think that will make it easier, that natural flow to it.
Yes, that is true. But even right now, I would just love them to walk in the space
that has nothing to do with this building.
Duly noted, and I will definitely, yes. I will let them know.
Thank you.
I'll let
them
know.
Thank you.
All right.
I had a question, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry. Yes, I was just looking here. Okay. Mr. Bar, go ahead, Mr.
My question is, sir, is in regards to the boundaries on the east side that comes in between the houses itself. How does it affect the residents? And I know some of the residents that actually live in the corner of I think it's Walnut, and the property line comes in between. Actually, Cookman line comes in between. How does that impact them? Is there a special buffer, or what's the master plan use for that land that was bought up in between those houses?
The idea behind it for that land is to not have people there. The idea behind it is simply to have trees to create to where you don't want people hanging out, because that's where the noise comes from. It won't come from in the building because the windows don't open.
Okay.
So the idea behind it is to fill it up with trees and make it an area that is not popular to go conjugate, because your noise is going to come from the conjugation. I mean, that's where the noise is going to come from. So that area, it will have a lot of trees, it will have a lot of buffer, there'll be a lot older trees, bigger trees. It actually will be more of a buffer if you didn't have the setback. Let's say you built it 35 feet and you had the code's buffer, it would actually be a lot worse. I mean, the extra feet actually is making that buffer significantly more. It's significantly thicker.
In relation to that, the fence line, because looking at it, I guess on the handout that we got on the front page, the fence line actually goes in between and around. Is that going to be an actual fence, or is it going to be open? Is it?
It's a fence, but
yeah. See how the line comes in and goes around.
The one property.
Yes, because in between some houses.
I see what you're saying. I thought you meant the line itself. You mean it's basically this house that comes in that the university. I think it's just a line. I believe my understanding was the fence would still be there. Yeah, it's. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, Steve Buswell with Parker Mitchenberg and Associates. When we got the call, or we're informed about the additional possible restriction, we went ahead and revised the complete east side buffer. Currently, what's proposed are 1,200-gallon, 16-foot high trees at the time of planting, with some additional sable palms, 2 sable palms in between, and there's a fence, a continuous fence that runs all along the eastern property line, basically from the retention pond all the way to McLeod Avenue. So that's located approximately 1 foot off the current property line. It's not intended that there'll be any use or mixing in that area. It's intended that everything's basically away from there and restricted with the fence and the landscaping.
And I think the specific, stay up here 1 second, see this line right here? It goes in, it goes over.
It's in
that
between the
property.
houses.
The in between the house?
Yeah.
Every design I've seen, even though it's the little black line kind of goes around it, it's still a buffer there, and it's still sectioned off.
Okay, but would it be fenced in with the same?
Yeah. It's still fenced in. It will still look like a house, if that makes sense. It won't look like a university.
I understand, but I understand that all the way along the line. Okay, but there's also that those 2 lots of land or 2 lots in there that's actually owned by the university, in between the houses. Is that going to be a separate buffer? What is that?
No, it won't look like a house. What I've been told and what I've been telling the neighborhood is that those houses will remain houses.
Okay.
That it won't encroach because they don't want it to encroach.
Right, because again, I know a lot of the families that live in that area and they've been there a long time, and part of our responsibility is to make sure we take care of our citizens. And even though we want to build bigger campuses and provide more education and so forth, we have to also understand that they've been there, they have their life, they have their livelihood, all the stuff there, and it will be unfair to run them out because we want something new.
Agreed, and I can tell you I've met with all the property owners of this whole section. We've trimmed some trees. We've really, we've gone out there, and I know from our first meeting, and I think it was said, God will not allow this house to be taken from me, and I heard her message loudly, and I appreciated her passion, and I have to agree. We have a fine balance.
Absolutely,
they've been there.
Life there. Yeah, that's like somebody running you out of your house.
I got a call earlier today about a burrow pit being expanded out in 44, and that was their same argument. They said, hey, I moved out here to be away from everything. Now I got someone who wanted to do a burrow pit and having an industry out here. I'm like, this isn't going to be fun. So we understand it and appreciate it. And I can tell you, I've been personally addressing it.
Right, thank you. And also, again, along the same lines will be the noise level for the residents, being older residents in that area and so forth, as long as we take in consideration their point of view and their perspective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I can tell you the funniest comment I received from one of the residents is said, oh, don't worry about the noise. I'll just turn my hearing aid down. It was pretty funny. I got to give it to him. There's some lively bunches at these neighborhood meetings that have good spirits, as they say.
All right. Any other questions specifically about the building for Attorney Wagner?
Chairman, I have one question, but I was just sitting here just thinking, but let me just go ahead and ask this question anyway. Why not consider having a garage built above the dorms or in the ground basement of the dorms, just like they do the hotels on beachside?
The only issue, and I have to tell you, is it's not financially feasible to do it. That's the. I wish we could, because ideally that would be the best case scenario. Eventually, it's going to happen. There will be a parking garage on Bethune-Cookman's campus. It's going to happen. The issue is building a 6-story garage. What we need is going to be $15 million for just a garage, and that's the problem. A lot of times you see that on the beachside residences. They can afford those condo prices and those condo fees. So that's our issue. It's finances.
Okay, no problem.
All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion in regard to this particular Phase 1 BCU Residence Hall, Phase 1, Development 214-084.
Mr. Chair, may I just make one comment, because I think it's kind of critical at this time to just give you our impression already as staff. I mean, we're getting an opportunity to review this, look at the size of the trees and that buffer, and talking about compatibility. and I assume you might want to hear from us as in terms of what we think. In
Yes.
reviewing all that information, and we find that this actually will meet that intent of what we did, like in Toyota's case, with a much larger trees, with a caliper of these trees. They're provided, I think it's on the 5th page of what was handed out to you this evening. So I would say that it's my recommendation at this time to consider that meeting that intent of Article 18. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the tentative approval for Phase 1.
So moved.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the conditional approval of this. Any unreadiness?
Yeah, the motion has to be to approve or to approve the request, and what you might want to do, Mr. Chair, is, with one exception, track the language in the recommendation section of the staff report.
Okay.
And if you look at that language, which is on the last page of the staff report, read at a certain point in the staff report, based on the submission of the modifications at tonight's meeting, what language in that recommendation would you delete so that the board can adopt it?
Well, I think at this point, I think I don't know if I delete it, I would make reference to the fact that we accept make a finding, number one, that you agree with what I had just recommended, is that it meets the compatibility.
No, I think you need to make a specific change to the recommendation on page 5, and if you look with me, I think I can help you make it, but the board needs to make a clear motion here that approves the site plan and the conditional use. So it seems to me that if you look at your recommendation on page 5, do you have it open? On line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the line that begins with requirements, where you said including a building design in compliance with LDC compatibility standards or submittal of a landscape plan showing, I think you could delete that whole clause up through the word requirements.
Correct.
And what you could say instead is including the landscaping. What would you refer to that, Jason? The landscaping plan shown on page 5 of the applicant's submittal?
Yes.
Okay, including the landscaping shown on page 5 of the applicant's submittal presented to the board. I'm sorry to be so technical, Mr. Chair. I'll catch everybody up in just a second.
Yeah.
So the way I understand it, the motion would be to approve the site plan and conditional use for the project, subject to the resolution of outstanding technical review comments, and subject or including the landscaping shown on page 5 of the applicant's submittal presented to the board, which is actually a much shorter paragraph than what you have in front of you. So, and I can repeat that, or if any of the board members want to pick up on that, that would be the way to go.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
I'll let my friend do it. Got it. We'd like to make the motion that we accept staff's recommendation and the wording in this particular
As recommended.
as recommended by the attorney.
So moved.
So you second. Okay.
That means
All right. It has been properly moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of staff with the wording put in by our attorney of the landscaping shown on page 5 of the submittal by the applicant. And so basically it's a conditional acceptance. All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed sign? The same sign. Hearing none, this passes as we have just read it, so as not to mix up everyone. Now, we come to phase 2. Okay. Now, Mr. Wagner. Well, first, let me let Mr. Bryant read our DEV 214096 BCU Residence Hall Phase 2.
Mr. Chair and Board, Charles Bryant, Redevelopment Project Manager. This is BCU Resident Phase 2. The project is BCU Residential Hall Phase 2, construction of 2 4-story resident halls for a total of 132,800 square feet with 548 beds. The location is southeast corner of the intersection of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard and Lincoln Street. Request board actions is review proposed site plan and conditional use. Review application pursuant to the appearance standards for redevelopment areas. Site plan review. The project is located in a RA residential zoning district. The future land use is school. The project is compatible with surrounding uses. Proposed project is consistent with the designated future land use for the site. Required parking for the BCU campus is 1,665 parking spaces based on the current student population. The proposed building will remove parking for the campus, but the removal of the parking, sufficient parking is not provided for Phase 2. The applicant needs to submit an updated campus parking plan demonstrating that sufficient parking is provided. Project is located across from single-family residential uses on the west side of the project site. The project meets the applicable compatibility requirements. Design guidelines for redevelopment districts. Project review for conformance to appearance standards. The project is proposing 2 new structures with architectural design features similar to other buildings on the BCU campus and meets the redevelopment design standards. Staff recommendation: approve the site plan and conditional use subject to 1, submittal of a campus parking plan in sufficient detail to verify a minimum of 1,665 off-street parking spaces are provided. 2, modifications to the location of the fire hydrants to service the proposed building. And 3, improvements to downstream lift station to adequate serve the project. Again, the applicant has representation here to answer any questions.
Mr. Wagner.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The as you can see, the same changes were implemented from the last meeting as far as the design standards, the loading areas, as far as the design of the actual building. There's not a setback issue with this one. This one is the parking issue. If we're going to pick the issue on each one, this is the one. We have different options with it, as I've stated. We're just trying to do it the right way. I mean, if you look at the design, we could have designed it differently and picked up parking right there, but as far as what we're trying to do from a planning standpoint, again, is to have the students hang out in that area. It's not build a box, put a bunch of parking around the box, and then have them hang out all over the place. The idea is to build these nodes. So we're being really strategic with it. As far as I think the staff's recommendation, I think it would meet all the needs of this board. Respectfully, with the understanding is, we understand the parking is the issue. We are definitely addressing it. And we're trying to go over and beyond. It's not just an issue of parking. It's trying, as I said, the pedestrian movement and the vehicular movement, not just the parking. That's it in a nutshell.
All right. any questions from our professionals?
Okay, now when it comes to, you have to do a whole new parking study on their whole property. And last time we talked, it was about retention ponds, and everybody hates retention ponds.
Absolutely.
And have you found out about possibly doing underwater retention and leaving grass area alone and be able to do the retention under a parking lot?
We tried to. I spoke to a couple professionals about it,
Okay.
and the issue was with the dry retention was
Yeah.
cost. So it's easier to do a retention that looks prettier
They don't
than
look pretty.
a fountain like that look. Just because the expense is so high, we did some evaluations of what it would cost for those dry ones. I actually knew some about it because of the airport, and some of the ones we worked on. It was a price issue. Now that being said, if you really, really wanted it, I think you could.
I mean, is it just
require
because
it.
their
It's-
elevation's so low here?
It's a low elevation. I mean, that's a lot of, as you know, the flooding a couple years back was bad. It's an elevation issue.
Yeah.
But that being said, the city, like the Orange Avenue project, some of these projects that are taking place, the issue is starting to be addressed, but it's not. We're not going to be there for a while. We have quite some time till we get through that elevation issue. It's an expensive problem.
I mean, I just hate to see this area just to turn into retention ponds everywhere.
Me too.
And I think they really need to try their hardest to completely avoid that.
Well, I think Parker. This is up your alley. As Parker goes through this, and Parker's part of the master plan, and as well as Sands and this team. I think if we take that in mind, I mean, the reality is for a university, there's a little bit of a selfish reason to want to have less retention ponds, is so they have more usable area. So I think as Parker is giving, trying to figure out ways to do it, we're going to want to really maximize the dry space. I just don't know, and I just want to be honest with you, the issue, it was just expensive. It was really, really difficult to do. The parking that we looked at and the different asphalts and different ways of doing it, although the technology's gotten better, the filtration system is still a problem with the grains of dirt, and you probably already know this. It's hard to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes down to money, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
At some
eventually you'll be
time,
building
yeah.
parking garage.
Yeah.
So,
You're right.
I mean, I don't know what their budget is, but really they should, I mean, they already have a retention pond here. I mean, I just hate to see more pop up.
Yeah.
Because next thing you know, all you're going to have is parking lots and retention ponds.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to stop right now.
And that's where I
Not
think
address
park and
it 10 years
rides.
from now.
Yeah, and that's where park and rides come in, I think, as well. They're nice because you don't lose the beautification of campus.
Yeah,
which
'cause
along
I'd
those
like to
lines.
see green areas where people can just hang out and, and relax versus, okay, here's another retention pond with a fountain.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like them. St. John's are very strict. Not as much anymore. They're loosening it a little. But I can tell you this: I'll make sure as the master plan comes in, and over time realize that a lot of these things, when we're coming back for the parking lots and we're coming back for different parts of this project, in essence, we're going to be coming back. So this is a constantly updated, and this is the master plan's being formulated, and it's going to come back to you. So as we design this and you're on this board, we're going to need to make sure you're satisfied. And part of that is, hey, Josh, here's another retention pond. What are you doing? That's the reality of it. So I hear you loud and clear. I don't want to come back to you with another big retention pond. So.
Okay, Mr. Ross.
I guess my concern is we're early in on this. It's only phase 1, phase 2. I'm not sure how many phases there is, but we already having concerns about the parking. So it's like, what's magically going to happen in the future?
Well, a lot of the parking issue really comes in when we take a parking lot. A lot of times what's going to happen is we may take a parking lot and then a building gets knocked down and that building becomes the parking lot that used to be utilized. Because it's hard to take down a dorm. It's better to build the other dorm, move kids out of the dorm, and then get rid of those old dorms. Just like they're doing on the Daytona Beach Housing Authority. They're moving all the residents out to the other one, and then they'll get rid of it. Yeah, so that's kind of the same model. And some things, the union, What you would consider possibly as a phase 3 would be a student union. That would not take away parking because it would be utilized in space that where a student union would be. So I think these two are just, they were parking lots. That's the problem. Specifically the second one, more so.
One other thing, if I can, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Wagner was referring to this earlier, the Land Development Code says you need X number of parking spaces. It specifically has provisions that would allow some of those spaces to be done off-site if certain conditions are met. They're very clear. They're set forth.
Right.
And that would be one way that at least for I think up to 400 spaces. I don't
quite
know
a few.
the number of them, but well beyond what they're able to satisfy.
Yeah, and if we get, it just depends on the amount of space that's available on those off-site lots. I mean, the more we have off-site, the better for the weekend warriors that go home. And that's, I think, ideal for any campus, at least until, a parking garage or something like that's built. But even that being said, you would still keep the parking garage. It's something the university would want to keep forever.
Then theoretically, with the 400 spaces that they could get off-site, that would give them enough for the 1,665 off-street parking spaces.
Mm-hmm. It would give us an extra 240, 239. If we did up to 400, we'd have 239 over, based on the calculations.
Okay. Yep. Dr. Jameson, then Mr. Bahu.
As I'm looking at both of these plans and thinking about the amount of students who would now be crossing Dr. Martin Luther, near McLeod Street and crossing, Dr. Martin Luther King Street. I think you're going to have to really pay attention to that traffic across those streets because Martin Luther, Mary McLeod Bethune, where they walk across right by this area, this door right here, they don't stop.
Oh, I know.
They never stop, and cars are sitting there. So you're going to have some really big problems with traffic across there. Now, I'm not supposed to suggest this, but maybe sooner or later you might have to put a walkway across both of those streets for safety.
We're hoping our legislation's listening to you. Because that's what we need help with.
Yeah.
Especially international. From a beautification standpoint in Midtown, it'd be nice too, just to have that. The signage, the look would be great as far as the pedestrians are concerned. The other ones that work really well is if you can design it in a way it's more like a bridge and the kids kind of go under. University of Florida has a really good one at 13th. Really popular because they just flow on their bikes. So there's some neat things that can be done. And that's where the state has programs. There's a specific program I've been pushing for. Hopefully it comes up in about 6 months that would be utilized for something like that. But I won't say it because that's a different hat.
Okay, my question is in regards to the landscaping and the tree sizes and so forth. Since the building is going to be about the same height, are we looking at the same size shrubbery and stuff for that building?
Probably not. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, is the issue was the residential boundary, that the shrubbery would be what is consistent on 3/4 of the other building, not that one east side. They won't be as big.
No,
they'll still be nice. I mean, they're still standard. But my understanding is that correct? That what kicks that in is that residential line, and this one just it doesn't have it.
But they'll still have the same.
Oh, look, it's going to look pretty. It really is. The idea behind this, and if you look at as you're looking at these, it's a gorgeous building. It's a really nice addition, and honestly, I think this one will be a little bit more iconic because of the location. It's gonna look really nice.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. No, Mr. Miller?
I think I heard staff say that they could go and get 400 park. Did you say that?
Yeah, and I wanted to make a correction.
Please correct that for me.
There's not a limit on the number of spaces. The code allows somebody who has parking requirements to meet those parking requirements by entering into an agreement for use of off-site parking. There's not a limit on the number.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
There are other issues, but they're very white and black, and they're in the code.
Do we have an agreement with outside parking?
I think you could. I think.
I didn't. No, I
think
asked, do we have? I'm saying.
Oh,
because-
no. What I was trying to figure out as we were sitting here is if the board made it a requirement. I think since it wouldn't require a site plan, you guys could tell us to do it. I mean, that's. I don't know if that partially
So
answers your question.
you come here to ask us to approve it without having the parking?
Well, I don't even know if you would allow us to do it. That's the
Oh.
problem. You know what I mean? So it's
okay.
if you want us to do it, then I can tell you I have the availability to do it. I just need to know if you guys want us to do it.
I have an issue. I'm saying I just remodeled a building, and I was almost landlocked, and I had to go in. They wouldn't approve it until I actually had an agreement, and it was a 10-year lease, I think it was. A 10-year lease. And you don't have that.
Well, you're talking about a lot of parking spots. I mean, I don't want to go out and sign a 10-year agreement for something that you guys don't want me to do. That's why I think it's condition. You know, when you make it a condition, we have to do it. I'd prefer you not do it at 400 if that's possible, because that's a lot more than we would need to do. But if you want us to do it, I would hope you would only ask us to do the 161 if that's possible. Now, if we needed to get more, the lot was more, then that'd be fine. But if we could limit it, that would be helpful from a financial standpoint.
I really want to support what Cookman is doing. However, I'm seeing every time, we're getting these phase 2, 3, 4, and we don't even meet the parking requirements, and then we're going to do something in a future time. And I'm just thinking that's not how you do business. I know that the city didn't give me that luxury.
Okay, now.
No, I'm just being honest. I'm saying,
I
and I think that we have to
understand,
be
but
fair.
we're not going to come.
Okay, well, I don't
like
want to say that, but I'm saying that, I have never seen folks come and say, let me build this, and then we'll go and deal with your parking later. That should be done when you're trying to approve the site. My understanding.
Well, just to be clear, I think what staff's recommending, and you can see that on page 4 of the staff report, is that the approval would be given subject to various requirements, and there's a reference to including the submittal of a campus parking plan in sufficient detail to verify a minimum of 1,665 off-street parking spaces. That's the code requirement. I think implicit in that is that if that plan requires the use of an off-site parking agreement, that would be done at that time. Now, just so you know, what always happens after this board approves a site plan in any case is there is a physical site plan document that ultimately gets stamped by staff, and and stamping that site plan, that's under the state statutes, that's the issuance of a development permit. So in other words, what staff is actually recommending here is that before that development permit be issued, that if I understand things correctly, that parking plan showing compliance with parking requirements be met. And since the code is very clear on what needs to be done in that agreement, it's almost a ministerial thing to review that. You either meet the requirements in the code for that agreement or not. And just to be clear, once more, I said a few minutes ago up to 400 spaces. There's no limit as far as that goes. And but they'd be under 400 spaces in terms of what they need anyway in order to meet the parking requirements. This may come up again, and you might remember my having said 400 is not the limit there. So.
Okay. All right, Mr. Berger.
What may happen in the future, and we don't know until you pick locations or location, whatever it happens to be, there may be some other process that they go through before they can actually establish that certain parking lot or lots. And they might even be coming back before this board because they're putting this in a place where there wasn't a parking lot before. And we'll have a site plan for that as well. But in any case, what we're saying is if you were to approve it this evening based on the condition that's in there, that they could not come in and actually start building that project until they had secured legally those parking spaces. But they would at least be able to go out and start the serious process of taking that next step.
Which could be a lease. It could be going to someone with the 10-year lease. A 10-year lease to the property owner saying, hey, can we lease 400 spots for a parking lot? If it's already a parking lot, if it's not, then we're back in here, in essence.
Mr. Fuqua? Ms. Ford? Ms. Hurd?
no comments.
Okay. And Dr. Jameson, you have something else about the building? Okay. All right. Based on...
I do feel better knowing that you all not going to go out there and build a building and then come back to us and say, okay, you're going to have to prove us we got this building here. I just didn't want to see that happen.
And I appreciate it. Trust me. You know, we can trust everybody, but verify is definitely a good thing to do. It's a good practice for all of us.
I'm a former revenue officer. I need to see it, you know.
I appreciate it.
One of the things that is good about the recommendation from staff is that it is conditioning this. Now, the thing that we have to realize, if the parking spaces are not acquired, then the building can't be built. Okay? Those are the things that this is saying, because everything we're doing is based on the submittal of a campus parking plan in sufficient detail to verify a minimum of 1,665 spaces, off-street parking spaces being provided. So that's very important when we begin to do what we are going to be making a motion on is basically accepting or not accepting the recommendation of staff. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay. So at this time, now, I know I'm supposed to do this, Mr. Gross, but we have asked that anyone that wanted to speak to fill out the green sheets, and I have nothing from the community, from our green sheets, concerning these particular issues. So that's why I did not ask for any comment from the public. And I needed to say that on record.
I think that's a good statement to say on record, so that we can show that, yeah.
And I can tell you that's a testament to we've really tried to get the message out to the community. The community meetings we had weren't required, especially the last one, but we did it because we thought it was better suited for your time as well. So.
We appreciate that. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Phase 2 with the recommendation of our staff, this project.
Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of staff and approve the site based on the conditions in the recommendation of the staff. All those in favor, let it be known by the word aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. The motion carries.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Now we come to the site plan modification. Okay. Now, is that also in this?
I think it is. You can see it on this would be probably page 6. Would be the best one to look at? Page 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say 5.
Okay.
Page 5, because when you're looking at Phase 2,
okay,
it's right there, and it's part of the design change from. And this is what we're going to continuously be doing over the next couple of years is this little modification, to better enhance it when it comes down to it.
All right, Mr. Bryant.
Mrs. Chair and Board, Charles Bryant, Redevelopment Project Manager. This is agenda item number 9, site plan modification, DEV 2014-101, BCU Harrison Rose Hall modification. This is a modification, changes to the approved site plan to realign the parking lot to drive access to match the adjacent proposed residential hall Phase 2, which we just discussed. The location is 641 Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard on BCU campus. Requests of board actions is to review proposed site plan minor modification and conditional use. The site plan review project is located in a RA residential zoning district The future land use is school. The project is compatible with surrounding uses. The proposed project is consistent with designated future land use for the site. Staff recommendation is to approve the site plan minor modification and conditional use subject to modifications to the fire hydrants. The applicant is also here again to discuss it.
All right. And just for clarification, this is on the Harrison Roads building.
Mm-hmm. And it's this,
Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, everyone. And this is a product of Phase 2, the changes so we can line it up when it comes down to it. That's pretty much all it is. It's just a realignment for the most part.
Okay. Anything?
I don't see any problems with it. You're just coinciding with the new site plan on the proposed development on the other hall. I don't see no issues with it.
Yeah, this one's definitely not as it's not as fun. Like, this isn't like one of those big projects you get all excited about. We're moving some asphalt to make it fit a little better.
All right.
Not that Parker's job isn't great, and we love him for what he does. This one is not the one that we all cheer for.
All right. Mr. Ross? Mr. Miller? Mr. Barhu?
No, I just want to comment pretty much. I like how everything kind of lines up and looks real nice and neat and very appealing. So thank you.
Mr. Fuqua?
No comments.
Dr. Jameson? Ms. Ford?
No comments.
Ms. Hurd?
No comments. Looking good.
All right. Then at this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the site plan modification, DV 2014-101, BCC Harrison Road Hall modification with the staff's recommendation.
Second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of staff on this particular development, DEV 214-101, conditional use of BCU Harrison Roads. All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
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 Opposed, like sign, and it passes. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, everyone, very much. If it's not out of order while you talk, can I take 30 seconds to just do a quick walkthrough and thank everyone? This is a big project for me, obviously, for the university, and I appreciated everyone's comments over the past couple months to get this done. You're going to be proud of this project, and we'll keep it as a team as we've been doing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And
Mr. Wagner, may I, Mr. Chairman?
yes.
Mr. Wagner.
All right.
Would you please tell the president to hurry up and do the parking?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you again, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right.
You got it.
Mr. Bryant, if you would read our M&M, DEV 214-078, site plan M&M Auto Sales.
Mr. Chairman of the Board, Charles Brown, Redevelopment Project Manager. This is site plan DEV 2014078, M&M Auto Sales. The applicant is Stan Harley, architect, on behalf of Parker and Deborah Meredith. The project is M&M Auto Sales. The location is 561 West International Speedway. Request board actions is to review the proposed site plan as required by Article 4, Section 8.2C of the Land Development Code. Review application pursuant to the appearance standards for the redevelopment area as required by Article 3, Section 5.1 of the Land Development Code. The board with final approval is the Midtown Redevelopment Area Board. The project description: M&M Auto Sales is a proposed auto sales facility. The project is located at the southwest corner of the intersection of South Helmy Place and West International Speedway Boulevard in the Midtown Redevelopment area. The project site has been vacant for more than 3 months. The site has been previously used for auto sales. The applicant is proposing to reestablish auto sales at that site. The applicant proposes to using the existing building and parking lot for the new business. The Land Development Code, LDC, Article 5, subdivisions and site plans, Section 4.1. Site plans require a site plan for a site that has been vacant for more than 3 months in the redevelopment area. The site plan review, Article 4, Section 8.3 of the LDC. The reviewing body in reviewing the site plan shall consider whether the proposal is consistent with all applicable policies of the comprehensive plan and whether any conflict in policy would be created. Land use and compatibility. The site is designated retail on the city's future land use map. Retail use designation permits commercial development with floor area ratios of up to 3. The net gross floor area of the existing building is 390 square feet, and the project has a FAR of 0.02. The site is currently vacant commercial. The site was previously developed with an automobile sales use, and the proposed auto retail sales use is compatible with the adjacent automobile related and automotive dependent use along West ISB. Zoning. The current zoning is BA, business automotive. The purpose of this district is to provide the appropriate location of offices, retail sales and services, and to promote functional groupings of office and commercial uses for the convenience of the public and for the mutual benefit of uses within each district. Light vehicle sales is a permitted BA use. A site arrangement. The site plan includes a proposed automobile sales commercial structure located on a 0.467 acre site. The building is located in the center of the property with parking surrounding the building. Parking and traffic flow. The project is required to provide 2 parking spaces based on the gross floor area of the retail and office square feet in the existing building. The applicant is proposing to provide 28 parking spaces. 3 of the parking spaces will be for customers and 25 for inventory. The existing parking lot is a combination of asphalt and cement surfaces. Any parking of vehicles for sale and drive aisles, any parking of vehicles for sales and drive aisles will be required to be on improved surfaces. The proposed ingress and egress will require review by the city's traffic manager. The site plan will have to provide an access point for the parking lot on South Him Place that is a safe distance from the intersection with West International. The site plan provides for safe access for emergency vehicles and has been reviewed by the fire department. Site landscaping. The proposed landscaping plan is an existing developed site. The LDC requires site and redevelopment areas be brought into compliance with the landscape requirements in Article 18, Section 2 to the greatest extent possible based on the physical constraints of the site. The constraints of the site with the existing structure and pavement area allows for lot premier landscaping and minimal building premier landscaping. The applicant will need to resod the tree preservation area and not park vehicles in the tree preservation area. Within your packet, there is a landscape and streetscape plan that detail the proposed landscaping improvements. The project site plan will increase the amount of landscape area along the public right-of-way. Signage. The applicant is proposing a wall sign and a ground sign. The applicant is proposing to replace the existing wall sign on the north elevation of the building and install a new monument sign that complies with the redevelopment design standards for signs. The final sign designs will have to meet redevelopment design standards for signs. Design standards, guidelines, and requirements for redevelopment districts. There are photographs of the existing structure and the package that you received. The project architecture, the existing building is designed in a commercial vernacular style of architect. The applicant is proposing to preserve the building's architecture. The applicant is not proposing any building additions or related new construction. The paint colors will comply with the approved colors for redevelopment areas. Recommendation. Staff recommends that the Midtown Redevelopment Board approve the site plan for the project known as M&M Auto Sales located at 351 West International Speedway Boulevard, subject to outstanding technical review comments including parking lot layout and compliance with LDC standards, location of the parking lot ingress at a safe distance from the intersection, and notes on the plan that vehicle parking and drive aisles will only occur on improved surfaces. The applicant is here to answer any questions regarding this request.
All right. Just for a point of clarification, when we talk about the vehicles for sale and the drive aisles will be required to be on improved surfaces, what is the definition of improved surfaces?
The definition is bituminous, concrete, asphalt. It's a solid surface. It's not a gravel surface.
Okay.
That's what's currently there. I'm Stan Holly, the architect.
Right.
Yeah, the current thing is already paved, and we plan on no changes there. We tried to go with that condition in mind, that we would work with what was there. We also tried to beautify the place as much as we could with the landscaping, which you can see if you got the plans there. It's quite a bit for such a little parcel, but we feel it'll be okay. And they feel they can make what they want to do as far as the business with the amount of cars that we have there. It's not a criteria to park on the grass. That's a green area, and there's some huge oak trees on that property. Been there forever. Mm-hmm. And we're fenced off from the Checkers, which happens to be on the property around it. So I think it'll be improved. We've cut off the driveway coming in from International. We're coming in on the side street. So I think we did the best we could to try to make it comply with the regulations. Existing sites are tough, but we felt this would work and asked for your permission to do it. So.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Holly?
Yes. On all the paved parking, are you going to repaint it or just re-blacktop it just like a paint?
I think at some point in time we would like to do that. I think right now we're kind of saying, if we can get this thing open and going. Okay. There's a story attached to this, and I don't know if I should bring it up or not, but the owner he's here right now, by the way.
Right.
And him and his brothers owned his property for 29 years in Daytona. Okay, and you guys probably 37. I'm sorry, you're the 29. So, but they have leased the property to some people from Hamilton, Ohio. I guess I'll go ahead and mention it because I came from Middletown. Mm-hmm. So they're out-of-towners that come in good faith and wanted to open the business, and then they found they couldn't open it until they complied with the regulations for the board, and they didn't know that or weren't told that up front, so they got an occupational license from the state and all that. So to summarize it, we're here now, but they've been waiting 3 months. It probably in your position to say, but I guess I'll deal with the building department. But if there's any way we can allow them to go ahead and sell cars if you guys approve this project instead of waiting another 2 or 3 months. I don't know if that's kosher or not, but I'll say it, okay? I think it's fair. So anybody got any question about that? Or
just anything else?
Just next question. What are you going to paint the building then, color-wise?
We were just going to paint it a off-white, warm white color, and probably a bronze or brown. We've got new railings. We're putting in a new handicap ramp because the building is elevated 18 inches and has steps only, so we're putting that in. So they had just painted the building, but they didn't know any better, as the saying goes.
Yeah, I saw it was
They didn't do
black.
that. They didn't do that. They didn't do that this way up north. So. Mm-hmm. But now we'll make it comply as best we can to your regulations. That's all I can say. Yeah.
I just want the colors to be, I don't want it to like overshadow, or I mean, not really overshadow, but be a nuisance, kind of like
No.
too bright of a colors. I mean,
No, we realize the earth tones are acceptable, and it's not a major building. We don't want to highlight it that much anyway, so we want to kind of blend in the big trees. So, but we can, that's what that's what we're showing currently on the plan is that. Okay.
I like the landscape plan, and I think it'll really, I mean, I drove by it twice today.
Good.
I think it'll really help that area.
Yes, and
when
we
you start
didn't.
driving down,
Mhm.
it's really, Internet ISB is starting to look good. It's starting, and some of the buildings are pulled off the street, which I think helps instead of having the buildings right up on the street.
Right.
Right. And adding this landscape, I think, will really help that
I do
area.
too. I do too.
All right. All right, Ms. Hurd.
Okay, my first question is, does this fence belong to M&M? The fence between...
The wood fence between Checkers, I think it belongs on. It's Checkers. It seems to be on their lot. We got the survey, and it's on their lot. I didn't know that, but he says it is. He's been there 37 years.
And did you say that the surface will be redone? The pavement?
Well, it's not going to be repaved. I think like anything else, we don't have to have striping for sales of cars. We just have to have the 3 spaces that we've allocated for handicaps.
I passed by there today, and I just saw some cracks and whatever.
Sure.
There, and I was wondering, would there be any improvement there, or just what?
It's not a big deal to recoat the blacktop. We do it all the time on most projects around. So when we do some construction work in here, I think it's a big deal. I don't think it's it. But I know originally we were talking about a fence, and I didn't like the big fences around Spanos, I'll say it. I think it's for boating, but they have a different operation. But so we don't want a fence. We want landscaping. I'd rather have green screens are my thing. So that's my position. Whatever.
All right, Mr.
Anything
Ross.
else?
No.
Mr. Miller.
No comment.
Ms. Ford. Dr. Jameson.
I have one question.
Okay.
On the location of 561 West International, and inside is 351 West International. So which the location?
It's 561.
It's on the last paragraph is 351 West.
Well, that's probably a typo, right? It's a typo. Okay.
So it's 561.
It's 561,
Okay.
yes. Yes.
All right, and the other thing was, you're not doing anything to the existing building, but as Ms. Hurd says that the surface around it may need some improvement. Will that be checked by the appropriate staff of the city to see whether or not it needs improvement on the surface?
We're gonna, we have that through the building permit process. We'll be making sure that everything that's been recommended here by staff is taken care of and it's in the site plan.
Mr. Fuqua.
My concern is that you are asking to go ahead and open the business now, right?
Well, that's what I said. I would ask that question. I just,
So
they had their
what
state
kind of-
license and they was denied it by the city of Daytona.
So what kind of improvements was made after you guys got the state license to be in compliance with the city of Daytona Beach?
Well, we haven't. That's what we're proposing to do right here. It's about 98% landscaping. We got a new ramp to put in, and we're not putting fencing or bollards or anything like that right now. So there isn't a lot of work to bring it up to code. It's primarily landscaping. I think that's the biggie. They had asked for a permit to put the sign up, and the sign's up. And this was done earlier, and they got the permit in the building department. But so we're kind of sitting in limbo here, and I know that's probably the biggest single expense that has been put in this thing. Even if we put it in, which I think is great, I don't have any problem with it. They like it, but if they could have some time, okay, they basically want to sell cars. That's what they're in business for, and they came from out of state here. I just feel that If you have it in your power to do it, I don't know. If not, I'd probably done
We're
it.
only here to approve the site plan.
Okay, that's what I figured. I'll ask somebody else.
That's all we're doing.
I don't stop. I just keep
That's
on.
all we have the authority to do is to approve or disapprove the site plan.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair.
Any other question, Mr. Fuqua?
No more questions at this time.
Okay. Mr. Barhu?
None.
All right. And I don't have anyone from the community to address this issue. Then I will entertain a motion in regard to the DEV 2014-078 site plan for M&M Auto Sales.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the proposal with the staff recommendation.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the proposal based on the recommendation of the staff. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Site plan is approved. Now you got to deal with somebody else about getting this business started.
Can we go eat?
I think you're going to look great, too. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right. At this time, we are ready for our redevelopment project updates. And Mr. Jeffries, thank you for your presence here. It's good to see you here.
Mr. Chairman and Board, Charles Bryant, Redevelopment Project Manager. First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Grooms for getting the minutes as we requested for Dr. Jameson, a draft of it early enough so she can do what she was asked to do. Thank you for that. Redevelopment project updates. If you would go to the next screen for me, please. Okay. These are photographs from the Orange Avenue reconstruction project that's going on right now. These are some pictures that were sent to me by Dwayne Fernandez. He's a professional photographer, and he's took these pictures. You could just go through them. That's the construction that's actually going on right now along Orange Avenue. These are some of the side streets, and it's showing the development of the project as it is beginning to take place. I just wanted to point that out to you. The other thing is, like I stated earlier, that I've been meeting with some people from Bethune-Cookman, trying to put together something for the elderly, especially during the Christmas holidays. A lot of elderly are at home, and they don't have relatives that come and take care of them during that time frame. And I've been soliciting different organizations to adopt our elderly during that time frame, and I'm getting a good response. I got a lot of people already say that they will volunteer to do so, and I'm pleased that Mr. Fuqua is working on the cleanup part. As soon as you get that information, if you could provide it to me, or try to work on putting something together for a community cleanup that we talked about before. I think it's going to be very important this holiday season that we work with elderly. A lot of people, elderly people, are living a long time, which I hope to do so also. But we need to make sure that we take care of the ones that are not in a facility that's actually taking care of them. If you look back over the history of Daytona Beach, you got a lot of elderly people that are still living at home, that done a lot of things, great things in Daytona Beach, and a lot of them kind of kicked to the side and not being taken care of. And we want to make sure that that is in place. We thought, we looked on the internet, we found some ideas about doing like we do with kids. We would do it for kids, and we would give them different toys and things for Christmas. We want to do something like that for the elderly, not necessarily toys, but find out what their needs are and try to help provide that during the holiday season. And at one point, one of the persons I met with, they want to do like a banquet, recognition banquet during the month of December to bring them out to a setting that they can actually be recognized and receive a good hot meal for that particular occasion. So we got a lot of things that we're working on. If you think of any ideas that you come up with, please email me or call me so we could kind of develop it. And I'll be working with Dr. Jameson toward trying to put together workshops so we could bring the community together for this initiative. So if you have anything, please send it to me. The last thing is I'm working with youth in our community. This is just happened to be something that we're doing for my church. It's a Bike to School Gospel Showcase. It's going to be on August the 23rd at New Life Church Ministry. It's actually in Holly Hills, but it's something open for the youth, not only in Daytona Beach, but the surrounding communities. We're trying to bring youth together and do something positive and give them a kickoff to the new year that's coming forth, the school year. So this is something that the youth leaders at my church decided that they wanted to do. We attended one recently at Mount Carmel. It was very successful. They had a lot of churches outside the city that came together with their youth. So I'm soliciting if you church and you got a youth group, we would love to have them come and participate. It's all about bringing youth together and not about in a specific church or anything like that. It's about the youth going back to school and giving them a kickoff to a new challenging year. Yes, I'll make sure I get some to you. Any questions? Okay,
Thank you, sir. At this time, we will have our public comments from the public. I've got Ms. Patricia E. Jones.
I'm not going to have you here long. I know I have 2 minutes. Good evening. My name is Patricia E. Jones. I reside at 507 South Key Street, Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm happy to say that I'm pleased with what I have been seeing with the redevelopment through Orange Avenue, but there are some concerns that I've noticed since they've gotten started. The close proximity of the traffic light on Nova Road and Orange Avenue and Keith Street and Orange Avenue. There are businesses on the north and south, and the traffic has the street of Jean Street and Carolina kind of blocked off, and the traffic gets all blocked up in that area, so people can't get out into the flow of traffic because the center lane is now the lane that you take on Orange Avenue going from east to west, and the turn lane is no longer in existence because that's where they're working. And it would seem like if the city can change traffic lights for big events on International, they could do something to change the lighting so that the congestion don't, remain there so long, because the longer it remains, things get more congested. There's a school in that area as well. Children will be coming to school, and there will be a safety issue for people dropping off their children at school. And that was a thing that I didn't see before, but since the development is going on, and I've been sitting at the light, well, not necessarily at the light, but in the congestion between Key Street and Nova Road for 4 or 5 lights. That's not a good thing. And when it gets congested like that, people cannot get into the flow of traffic. We understand that there's construction going on, but a simple thing is regulating the light to give them a little more time so more traffic can flow would be something that I think should be taken into consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a point well taken, and we can make sure to pass that on to Public Works and see what can be done about that. In fact, I will go down to Public Works myself and talk to them and see what we can do about that. Just a second. Oh, okay. Use your microphone.
I had to ask for permission, you know. But I was about to say, Mrs. Jones, with the traffic coming from the driver license bureau there, I feel that maybe should be closed and going toward Orange Avenue because of the congestion. When they leave there, they should take Maple Street, the next street over. Maley Street. Thank you, Maley Street, because it's congested right there anyway. So I just would like to make that suggestion that would be a one-way street for right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I didn't know why I had to come back up.
No, you don't have to come back up.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right. That is a good idea. In fact, Ms. Hurd, if you'd write that up, I will take it to present it. But if you'll write that up for us. Yeah, we'll go down and talk to Public Works, and they can give us. No, I don't want to. I don't want to destroy the sunshine law.
All right.
All right. Yes, did you have a comment?
Well, I just want to ask a question, Ms. Hurd, because I know you're saying coming out of the DMV, but you still going to have the traffic going south that can cross from, you still going to have the same backup going south, crossing over from the old police department going across to DMV.
Yeah.
So you still have the same issue, even if you close it off and redirect traffic.
Inasmuch as we do not have homes on that street, maybe we just use the south side of Orange Avenue there to go to the license bureau rather than crossing over. They would work it out, I'm sure. It's congested and many accidents have been there.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to recommend that you
Love stuff.
that you bring it to the attention of Public Works, and they have engineers and
Right.
traffic people. Let them
That'll
work
deal
it out.
with it.
Just bring it to their attention and let them know it's an issue, and they'll find a way to resolve
Yes,
it.
thank you.
I
Mr.
agree,
Bryan.
because that's above our pay grade.
All night.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
All right. We are ready for our board comments. We'll start with Mr. Ross.
I just want to say I've been riding around and seeing the development going on. I'm really happy about it. And also the Toyota lot, I didn't realize it was that small. Once the building got knocked down, it doesn't look as big as it used to. So, but for the most part, I'm happy about everything. So,
All right. Mr. Miller.
I think we are improving our tight space in the Midtown redevelopment, so one day we can have some fun so that somebody could utilize it. But I have a question. I know that we have sold some lots lately. In fact, one over there on George Ingram Boulevard where the guy's thinking about doing a restaurant, and he put a bid in for $5,000, and we didn't like that bid, so we ended up having him to increase the bid. Is that what happened? Hello?
No.
Which lot is that?
No. We have, first of all, the lot on George Ingram and Lincoln.
Yeah.
There has been a request in, and that request was to purchase the lot at the market value. Selection committee.
Oh, at the market value.
The market value is determined by the county appraiser.
Okay, but he had put in a bid for $5,000, right?
No, we didn't have a bid for $5,000 on that lot that I'm aware of. So what we have is we have a bid at the appraised.
I thought the guy who owned the Bethune Grill put in a bid for.
Okay, I can look back and see what we have originally, but the only ones that went through the.
He was the only one that bid it.
I know it, but I'm just.
Yeah, I'm not.
It was $5,000. I talked with them.
It never got through the selection committee process, but probably because it wasn't even considered if that was the value.
Right, exactly, and that was the point I was making. And I just noticed a piece of property on Grandview that we spent $2.2 million for, and we let go for about 27,000. Why we didn't pull that one?
We're dealing with Midtown.
But I'm just curious. I'm thinking, if it's good for one, it's the other.
Yeah, but let's that. And the reason I'm saying that is because we get on tangents that have no bearing on Midtown. We can talk about that separately from the Midtown board meeting.
It has a bearing, sir, and for the simple reason that if this guy put in a bid for 5 and they made it go to the fair market value, it's not the same across the board, and I want it to be the same across the board.
All I can tell you on that is that in that circumstance, that was a request for proposals that were put out there, and somebody responded, and the value is. First of all, the purchase was a lot less than that. It's about $1.87 million, and that was at the height of the market, and it was to remove a serious problem, both in crime and blight, of a building that was there. And so that building had to be demolished, and the city took that on back at the height of the value of the market, which dropped dramatically over a few years. Plus the building was gone, so that value is gone. In the end, what we got back with the chosen developer was something that had value, and in return for that, there was an economic incentive, which the city commission agreed to what that price was going to be, and that's where we agreed to not just a sale price of the land, but also other economic factors that come in as they sell units. There will be some additional monies that will be coming back from the developer on that.
Go for the question.
Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Well, I guess I'm here and I'm learning the process since I'm here on the Midtown Redevelopment Board, and maybe one day we'll have projects that size, and I kind of like to see what the incentive was personally. Is it a way for me to see that?
Sure.
Can you get that for me?
No.
Well, no, hold on. Stop, please.
I can get that for you.
Yeah, because I tried calling you and I left a message and I didn't get a return call. So I wouldn't have been doing this if I hadn't gotten a call back. So
I haven't seen that call, Steve, from you. So
you was on your way to lunch, and I think, or somewhere you was going to a meeting.
Then I may have something in my
okay.
mail, and I'll check that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz.
Okay. Searching the lovely internet and being a resident of Daytona Beach, saw something on Yahoo, and it was basically top 50 most dangerous cities in the United States. And our great city was number 34. And where is this? Philadelphia was considered less dangerous than Daytona Beach. I don't see how.
Oh, no.
D.C., Miami, Buffalo. I mean, and then Cleveland, Ohio was at 33.
I can't believe you're
Whoa. Enormous stories. And Orlando's not even on this list, so.
What about Deltona?
No.
I'd like to see that report.
Go ahead.
There you go. I don't know. I like to maybe see some real.
The other one.
Oh, yeah, that's from. Now, granted, it's the internet, and we all know nothing's really always true on the internet, but there are real people out there that see the internet and think everything's true. So we may need to somehow change that perception.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Perception is reality.
And unfortunately, people are stupid and they read the internet and think everything's true. And I don't think that's true. I mean, I've driven around Daytona Beach late at night, and I don't see people being shot. I don't see abandoned cars on fires anywhere like you do in other cities. I don't see that in this city. So I think somehow we got to change perception. I don't think it's really on this board. It's just a comment that I had.
That's a good comment.
I would just like to say to the board again is that to get a true sense of what's going on in Daytona Beach, you got to go to a Comstat meeting. That's where the statistics there. That's where they are. That's where you can ask questions. You get the real statistics at Comstat every meeting that they have. So that's why I like going. And you get to voice your opinion. Chief is going to give you an opportunity to speak and ask questions about what's going on in the city, and that's where the rubber meets the road.
When is the next one?
Next one is next Thursday.
At 3:30.
8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I thought
Were you
they
going to say
changed
something?
today.
Okay. Mr. Bahu?
No further comment. The city and I think we're doing a lot to help it and beautify it. I think Midtown is coming around. We see lots of projects, and I'm really proud to be a part of the process.
Thank you. Mr. Fuqua?
I have one or two comments. On yesterday, I saw a unsafe situation on Orange Avenue, and I immediately reported it to Captain Blanchard, and he immediately got on it. And this morning at 6 o'clock, Public Works was there taking care of the situation. And I would like to say hats off to Public Works for stepping up, taking care of a situation that could have caused a major, major accident and could have harmed someone on the sidewalks. And also, concerning with the traffic on Orange Avenue with the construction. When you go to Public Works, please inquire about them reducing the speed limit on Orange Avenue. I stood out there in front of my business this morning for about 15, 20 minutes, and I just stood there, and I'm looking at all the traffic, and people are like racing up and down Orange Avenue. Even when Public Works was out there taking care of the tree limbs where the wind had blew over on the sidewalk, they just ignored the guys in their safety vests, asking them to stop, and they're going around them. It is a major issue. We are getting our Orange Avenue repaved. We don't want to see any of the city employees get hurt. Someone please need to go down to Public Works and ask them to reduce the speed limit on Orange Avenue. They're driving and they're racing up and down Orange Avenue as if they're out there on Highway 95.
Okay. That's a good point. Very valid. Dr. Jameson?
I'll be interested in knowing when the reconstruction or repavement of Martin Luther King is starting. Other than that, I'm very content with what I see going on.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Ford?
Real short, I really do like seeing the new projects that's going on, and I will wait to see what the end will look like. I think it'll be nice. But I also did take a trip to Orange County and spend a day with their leisure services director and learning different things just to go back with some of the projects that we're talking about with this board. So I will share that at that time of how they're getting funding and coming in and not necessarily being codependent on the city. So how they're getting that extra funding to supplement their programs. And also I got a list for Dr. Jameson of people that we can invite to be on this committee.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hurd?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say I am pleased to see the construction on Orange Avenue. It has been a long time coming, and we are waiting for all of the other works to be done, especially on MLK. On MLK, I noticed at the business across from Checkers there, Mr. Bryant, you know what I'm talking about, we've been on that before. The restaurant equipment. The trees are hanging in the road. If those trees belong to them, it's their parcel. They need trimming. And also, before they start construction on MLK, I just hope positively that something be done with the lot on the corner of Wells Lane and MLK. Nothing has been done with that land in years. That is on the south side of Wells Lane with the fence around it. I am also concerned about the fence. Is there anything that can be done with that wooden fence between M&M and Checkers? Can the city require them to bring it up to code to beautify International?
Yeah, if it doesn't meet the code requirements right now, and we do have a provision in there that they have to keep it up to code, yes.
Well, will you have that check, please?
But Charles, will you help us out on that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another thing, too, piggybacking on Mr. Fuqua, yes, people are speeding all over town. And I'll be the first one to say, give them tickets. Give them tickets. Yes, I will, because when a person drives up, when I took driver's ed in high school,
oh my God.
we had to know the rules have changed, but cars had to be a certain number of feet behind you. And these people run right up to you, and they cannot move until you move. But that's not the point. They need to be given tickets. And I also noticed around town and in the Midtown area that the windows have become darker now, the tinted windows. And maybe that is something we need to look at too. Other than that, everything is going smoothly. And one other thing, I will have to check that out myself concerning these big trucks coming down neighborhood streets. You know, these big trucks are 8 coming from the company. I will deal with that later, but they should not be coming down our residential streets. Thank you, and you all have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Hurd. Now,
well, I don't care.
Oh, we got somebody in the audience want to say something? And at his age, I'm going to let him say something.
Yes.
Really?
That's okay. We'll make an exception.
That's okay.
Gang problem.
Your name?
Yes, go ahead.
Full sports.
Okay.
Son.
Okay.
Well, I heard like 2 months ago that they were talking about this smoking problem with the weed stuff. Well, there's this little shop around here that there's a one way to stop it. Them to keep stop. Well, there's like houses in neighborhoods that a lot of bad people smoke bad products. Well, the way to stop it is to the product that they're smoking out of. There's a shop called Grasshopper that we drive by into our apartment well, I forget what it's called. It's a preserve. Mm-hmm. It's right next to it, and I see people walking in there almost every day. So I think they should stop it.
All right.
That's well said, young man.
And the way everybody needs food to eat, so put like security guards right next to the public store. Just
yes.
Because they can.
I was talking to him about how there's no grocery stores in the actual center of Daytona Beach. And that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Food doesn't.
I feel they won't do it because it's all about money.
Yep.
But safety.
Right. Well, one of the things that I like is that at least you see that he listened and he's thinking of solutions.
Yes, wonderful.
Exactly.
That's big. And not just diagnosing a problem, he's actually coming up with a solution, and I appreciate that. And I know it might embarrass Daddy, but I'm sure Daddy does things that embarrasses you too. So I thank you for coming up, Mr. Schwartz. I was reminded, and I had known it, and I was going to make mention of it, but Mr. Miller also reminded me, Mr. Berger, we're glad you're okay. He was in an accident. A lot of y'all didn't know it, but we're glad you're okay. I'm also glad that Mr. Fuqua is okay.
Okay, yes.
Because a lot of people didn't know he had gone to the hospital.
Yes.
I didn't know that. He's doing well. I'm happy he's okay. Now, one of the things I do want to do, I want to thank Dr. Jameson, because she's taken on a lot of responsibility, and I joke and tease with her a lot, but we really appreciate you doing the things that you do. And you take on a lot of responsibility, and you're to be complimented for that. And I also want to shout out to Mr. Miller. Now, he's very passionate about what he does. Sometimes we got to reel him in a little bit, but his passion for the community is evident. And that's something that I think we don't need to stop. But we just want to make sure that things are done in a certain way. So y'all, when you do something that's not right, I make mention of that, but I also need to let you know when you're doing something that's right. And we really appreciate your passion for this community. I want to thank all of you all the board members, because you're doing a lot of work. We're doing something that's going to make a difference in this city. And it's something that may not have always been done before by this board. So we're facilitating some things that are going to make a big difference. Of course, Ms. Jones, we always are thankful to see you out. And you tell my little short classmate, Mr. Jenkins, that we would like to see him too. But we thank you for coming out. Thank staff for all the work that they've done. We appreciate the research that they do so that it makes our jobs a little bit easier. Now, I do go through the land development code that we have, and I look at different things also before we come here. And the last comment I want to make is all the board, you're all reading your packets. And I appreciate that. That's big, because sometimes we get people on the board that don't particularly read the packet. And we've got a lot done in a little bit of time tonight. Because I know the times we have been here to 9 o'clock, which we're not doing anymore. But I do appreciate all your work. Thank you for everything that you have done. Thank our secretary for keeping everything right on track. And Charles, I thank you especially because you do a lot of stuff.
Including delivering my package in the rain.
And we really appreciate you. AV department, we appreciate you, and we're going to make sure that people use the microphones, okay? But if there's nothing else to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned.